So obviously the big question out there is, how are we going to use artificial intelligence? How can it change our lives? How can we do that? And I'm just curious, what's the reason for adding it? Stephen, go ahead and close it, please. Increase efficiency for my teams. That looks like the most popular answer, but we also have a few heavy interests in how to automate processes as well as how to enhance that experience. So when we think about it, it's really talking about our entire system, and that's what we're here to talk about today. So our agenda is pretty simple. We're going to jump right into the conversation. And as we're preparing for this webinar, we realize that these topics feel a bit technical. And for those of you that are on the phone that aren't admins and that aren't in the technical space, don't worry. As we thought about this a little bit more, we actually discovered that they do have a direct impact on the company's performance, on the bottom line that we're all interested in. We are all preparing to use AI, which will drive efficiency, of course, and this will increase our revenue per employee while decreasing overall costs and ultimately driving higher customer satisfaction. Our customers and our employees will have a better experience. Let's start with flow. Workflows have been part of Salesforce forever, and many folks are already using them. Chris, why did flow make the list of the top 5 features that companies aren't using today that they should be?
Thanks, Jason. So Salesforce Flow in itself is a very powerful tool within the Salesforce ecosystem. It allows companies to automate complex business processes, streamline operations, and improve productivity. Some of the reasons that it made the list today are the automation of business processes. You can automate repetitive, time-consuming tasks, reducing the need for manual intervention, including tasks such as data entry, approval processes, and task assignments. This will help reduce human errors and increase efficiency. You get enhanced productivity, automating tasks that allows employees to focus on more strategic, high-value activities, leading to better utilization of human resources and contributes to the overall productivity improvement. And then you have customizable workflows. We always had the standard workflows that allowed creation of records or alerts with usually hard-coded values. The process builder introduced a little bit more flexibility, but now flows allow you to closely align with the specific business needs, utilizing variables from the flow itself, taking users through guided experiences, and scheduling automation in a simple but robust fashion. Some of the different pieces that we'll kind of touch on today are the reactive screen components that reduce the number of screens you may go through in the guided experience, reduce data entry. We'll touch on some new features such as HTTP callouts that reduce the need for complex Apex code and the overhead maintenance, and allows you to transform data as well. Outside of that, the number one reason, Salesforce is going to end support for workflows and process builders in December of 2025. So let's jump into the next slide. So we have a couple different examples here. So here are some of the core Salesforce flows that you can create, right? So this number one that we're going to show an example of here shortly is a screen flow. This is going to take the user through a guided experience, presenting them with questions and information that they need to answer. This really allows you to guide the user through the business process that you want to create. You have scheduled triggered flows. So if you have a process that happens daily, monthly, you can use a scheduled trigger flow to automatically allow that flow to kick off. You can customize this a little bit further to even get down to the granular level of hourly or down to minute intervals as needed as well. You can do auto launch flows. So we talked about Apex a little bit. You can launch flows through Apex. You can launch flows through REST APIs. So if you have integrations with other systems, let's say your ERP is sending an invoice over into your CRM, you can launch the flow through the REST API as well. You have record triggered flows. So you can do these before, you can do these after, you can do them on create, update, or delete, right? So we used to have the Apex triggers that were before, after flows, that were deletes that used to control it. Process builders didn't give us that flexibility. Workflows didn't give us that flexibility. This now gives us a declarative way to create this automation, which used to have to be written in code. Platform events. Platform events, we can trigger it off of that as well. So those allow us to create automation that will run asynchronously. And then one of the newer ones is the record triggered orchestration. So you can launch an orchestrated process from updates or creations of certain records. And we'll get into that flow orchestration here in a little bit as well. Next slide. So what we have here, we all love Einstein, right? And we all love AI. They built in this generative AI approach to Salesforce Flow. Whether you have the Einstein One platform, if you have Einstein for Sales, or if you have Einstein for Service, you're able to start utilizing that and turning this on for Flow. Back in that first stream where we saw the core templates, if you have Einstein for Flow turned on, which is currently, I believe, in beta, you will see this prompt that says, let Einstein help you build your flow. And if you click the next button, we're going to jump into a quick example. So you're basically going to give the flow some instructions. Here, what we're saying is when an opportunity is created that's over $10,000, the flow should send an email to the opportunity owner telling them that they have a new large opportunity. And now if we click again, we'll see what this generative AI creates for us. You'll see the start shape. You'll see that it's chosen the opportunity record. You'll see that it said when it's created. It has the one condition that has to meet the $10,000 mark. And then the action that is going to happen is sending an email to the opportunity owner that's going to let them know that they have a new large value opportunity. And you can always start over, right? So if the generative AI didn't build exactly what you wanted, you could start over and give it more instruction. Next slide. Now we're going to get into a little bit of the HTTP callout. So there is a little bit of setup that you have to do prior to this, setting up the name credentials, setting up the information that's needed. Once you do that, you'll be able to see your get, your post, your put, patch, and delete methods within the HTTP callout. This is going to allow you to connect and talk to external systems. So again, whether it's an open API that you're using to, let's say, get weather, whether it's a system that you have, your ERP, backend databases, as soon as that connection is enabled, you can start to utilize Flow to make those connections. This used to all, again, have to be done in Apex. There are still limitations in which iPaaS tools and other integration methods make more sense. But for some basic integrations, you can start to use Flow to communicate back and forth between systems. So here you'll see the methods. And if we click again, we'll start to see what a sample response may look like. So here it's just using an open joke API, which is going to send that over and we're going to get that response back. If you click next again, we'll start to see how you can utilize that transform shape. If you're similar with iPaaS tools, there's a lot of information where fields may not align name for name between your CRM, between your ERP, or other databases. This helps you align your source data with your target data. So you can map the different fields to where they are actually supposed to go. So here you see we have the amount mapping to an amount underscore C field, the customer ID is being mapped, and the status is also being mapped as well. So when your systems are not maybe aligned name for name or same data type values, you can use formulas in between. So if you see where it says that FX next to the amount, there's actually a transformation happening there. It's just not mapping the amount directly to the amount. There's something else happening in between that's correcting that data so the target system can accept that data as needed. If we go to the next slide here. So here is what we're going to talk about from a flow orchestration perspective, right? And the flow orchestration has some key features to improve your business processes. These features are things like sequential and parallel steps. You could do task assignments. And as admins, we even get to monitor and get reporting on these different flow orchestrations. You can integrate with your Salesforce object as you do today in Flow, and it is again a declarative approach. So there is no code that is needed here. This can be used for processes like customer onboarding, service case management, HR processes, project management, and much, much more. In the sequential and parallel steps in the flow orchestration, as you can see here, you can have steps that are running concurrent with one another, or you can have steps which have dependencies, meaning one step needs to be completed before the next step actually starts. The task assignment. You can support different task assignments to different users or groups. This is ensuring the right people get the task at the right time. So if it is customer onboarding, if it's a service case incident, you can utilize this to make sure it's getting to the correct people. The monitoring and reporting, again, that's unmatched. When your Salesforce admins can go in and see with this flow orchestration, has step one been completed and who completed it? Have the next steps been completed or who is assigned those steps? It's going to allow us to look at these flow orchestrations and also improve them. Where's the bottleneck happening and how can we make sure people get through that step quicker? And again, the declarative approach. We're not hard coding anything. We're not writing code to do this. It's all drag and drop. Your admin and your analyst can utilize this information today. Then if we go to the next slide, I think it's now live example. So I'm just going to take over and share my screen here really quick. And we're going to go through a couple examples of where you can use reactive components the most. So I'm going to go through two different examples. Here, I'm going to start on the account record in Salesforce, and all I'm going to do is create a project. You'll see that the account automatically fills for me, that the type automatically fills for me, eliminating me having to answer certain questions or put in additional data. The product is already filled, and the sales price of that product is already filled. What we'll see here is the total price calculated based on the number of hours I select. So if I drag this up to 20, we see that it's taking 20 times the 175 to give us the 3,500. But let's say we want to change the sales price. If we change it to 150, you'll see that that total price automatically changes as we move the slider or as we change the price itself. I'm just going to click next. And what this is going to do is create a project for us. So here we can see the project, the account is automatically filled out. And when we look at the related products, it has the quantity we chose, the hourly cost, and the total cost. All of that done with just a few clicks to build that flow. And there's no code that was actually written there. The user, instead of having to enter 5 or 6 different fields, was able to fill out just one field. All they had to do was slide the slider across, and they could change the hourly cost if they wanted to, but they never had to change that. The second example that we're going to give is more utilizing a data table and presenting certain text as it changes. So here I'm on an opportunity record, and I'm just going to create a basic order with some basic information. We can see that the Acme account from the account is presented with the shipping address of that account. So in this scenario, we're going to show how you can see the billing address of the account selected below. If I select global media, we see the billing address pop up here. And if I select salesforce.com, we see their billing address pop up here. Again, eliminating the need to go through a long list of accounts. This is just looking at the billing accounts that are available for this opportunity. And what we should see in the order is Acme filling as the shipping account, and then Salesforce filling as the billing account with this shipping address and this billing address. So I'm going to click next here, and I'm just going to go to all of our orders, do a quick refresh. And we should see 102 fill in. And then in the details here, we see salesforce.com with the billing address and the shipping address with Acme and their shipping address that was chosen there. So those reactive components now allow you to fill in less data, again, reducing kind of the human errors that you may see in data entry and pulling that from existing information that already is there in your CRM. Jason, I'm going to pass it back to you.
Fantastic. Good stuff, Chris. So when I look at all that, one question that comes to mind is that really looks like it drives a lot of productivity and a lot of efficiency, which were very popular answers in the poll. Can you just summarize that real quick for me and just give us a few more examples?
Yeah, so you can use reactive components in many different areas, right? So we saw kind of just the multiplication to get the total price. We saw the different billing addresses changing. You could use it to fill in product information as you're going through quotes. You could use it in opportunity creation as well. There are many different areas in which you can utilize that. There's a lot of other things within Flow as well, right? So when we think of adding reactive components with Flow Repeater, that allows you to add many different answers or many different products within one screen. So that repeater will allow you to kind of go through those motions if you have multiple products. And the reactive screen component will allow you to calculate prices or calculate quantities automatically based on existing data from the variables that you're using within the flow.
Oh, I see. So what you're telling us is that I'm going to get more done because I'm not going back and forth to an Excel spreadsheet or a calculator or something like that. Instead, everything's happening right inside of Salesforce. I'm getting it done. I'm moving faster. I'm going to be able to process more orders. My team's going to be able to get more done, all because of the reactive components inside of Flow that have been added.
Yep, less screens, less time to entry. So quotes that used to take 10, 15 minutes to create and get started now can take 2, 3 minutes. Really all depends on the business process, but you can reduce the overall clicks or the overall number of information or numbers of information that's being populated in there. So like we saw in that first one where you'd have to fill in the account type, the product, the quantity, the cost, and the total price. Now, all they're simply doing is selecting that quantity with the slider, and that's all that they have to fill in. So instead of filling in 7
Wow.
fields, they now fill in 1 field.
Wow. Sounds like you could certainly get a lot done.
That's our
Excellent.
hope.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. So that was an excellent summary. We could talk about flow all day, that's for sure. Um, but we do need to move on to the next topic, and we're going to start out with another poll question. Steve, if you don't mind launching that for me, please. So user management, it's one of those topics that seem to be a little more technical, like we talked about, but that may not always be the case. So just curious what the group's feelings are. Get my stopwatch out. We have another 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Steve, there you go. All right. Well, oh, great. So everybody already agrees with us. So we don't need to do anything here. We're just going to skip this next section. No, I'm just kidding. But anyways, no, that's very good that people understand the value of user management and the impact. We just saw a little bit of that, certainly with Flow. The number of processes that we're seeing managed by Salesforce is certainly growing. And that means your user population is growing as well. And the reason why it's so important to add those into your environment is because if you don't, what we see is companies are going to go ahead and develop workarounds that are usually inconsistent. They build information silos, and it just causes problems all around. It's sort of counterproductive when you think about the idea of where everybody's moving. We can connect all these pieces, we can bring it all together, but we need to dig just a little bit deeper here to really express our point. So Pat, why is it important for companies to capture more processes in Salesforce, and what tools have been added to make it easier for companies to add those users?
Thanks, Jason. As you alluded to, Salesforce started out as a basic CRM. Over the years, it's continued to evolve to bring more of those business processes into Salesforce. A great example is their recent acquisition of Spiff that's going to now start tying commissions into the system. This evolution helps to drive a larger data capture of your customers overall, thus providing more value for Data Cloud and ultimately Einstein AI. This in turn will result in increased efficiency across the business, including sales to improve revenue and customer support, which will help to improve customer satisfaction and retention. Einstein AI relies on good data, so that model doesn't find conflicting information. This happens for many reasons, one of which is when some of the story is driven by data in Salesforce and some of the data is produced in a silo. The poor mapping confuses the model and minimizes, if not eliminates, the usefulness of the critical data points for your team. Many times, before Einstein AI is introduced, a data evaluation and cleansing is really needed to be completed to ensure the best value. All this circles back to adding more processes into the Salesforce clouds and ensuring the data is ready for Einstein to use. With all the data and new users coming into the ecosystem, we need some way to help manage access and protect sensitive data. Two of the tools that we're going to talk about today are the permission set groups and the restriction rules. Permission set groups were released a few years ago, but have really picked up steam within the past couple of years within the ecosystem. They're a fantastic tool to help enhance your overall security architecture and make it easier for your internal team to maintain security and remove and provide access as needed. You can add and remove as many permission sets as desired, so as role responsibilities change within your organization, it can be easy to adjust with confidence, knowing that the right people are seeing the right data. When new team members are onboarded, you can just assign them to the permission set group that matches their role versus trying to ensure all permission sets match another existing user. So now you no longer have to go through one person's 50 permission sets and try to figure out which ones actually align with that person, the new person's required access. The benefit of this is that it allows you to really get that person to a point of providing value much faster. So as you can get a new sales team member in, they can hit the ground running with sales, and you don't have to worry about working with IT to get the access that's really required. Data security is another critical area where this is going to be super helpful. So the data security is so critical in our modern world. So having great design around your security model and then allowing a way to manage and scale that really helps to ensure that data is only seen by the users that need to see the data, and that will ultimately help reduce your organizational risk. Moving on to restriction rules. Restriction rules are another underutilized tool that can help focus your security efforts a little bit more. So consider this tool a refinement to permission set groups and other security measures. It helps to kind of refine that final visibility for end users. So the tool is designed to restrict a user's visibility into certain records based on defined criteria. So say you have a shared account that is worked on by multiple business verticals. We don't necessarily want team members from both business verticals seeing each other's tasks because they may not apply. They might cause some type of bias in terms of the next steps. So how do we help kind of minimize that visibility? So this is where record restriction rules would really be a great asset to help refine that final level of access for your end users. As I had mentioned, the restricting of that data really helps to protect that objectivity with respects to those activities in this particular use case. Separating data like this can really help ensure information gets to the right people at the right time. Even though that's just one specific use case, the tool can be used in a variety of ways to protect sensitive data as a whole and reduce data clutter inside of the user experience, allowing for faster execution on day-to-day activities. Jason, I'm going to steal the screen for 1 second and just jump into
Perfect.
the permission set groups and show what this would look like within the system. So I've already had this call center agent permission set group set up. So this is going to look very similar to what you would typically see from like a profile or a general permission set. The really nice aspect of this is going to be around combined permissions. So once you have multiple permission sets within the permission set group, you'll be able to utilize this to really have visibility into this full permission set group to see what access those people are provided. Then when you click into the permission sets groups, or permission sets in the group, excuse me, you'll see kind of a list of the existing permission sets that have been assigned to this permission set group. So it's very easy to go ahead and remove and add permission sets. So adding permission sets, we just jump in. You can quickly add permission sets into this group. Not going to in this example, but I'm going to let's remove SMS messaging. We realize they no longer need to text because that's going to be more of a customer service role. So now anybody, if you had 50 or 60 users that were assigned to this particular permission set, taking it out of our permission set group, taking it out of this permission set immediately removes that access to all 50 of those users. So it's just a very fast way to help kind of manage those roles, especially as they're changing. And just from a general maintenance and setup standpoint, if you're just on a user within the system and you need to add that person in, it's much cleaner to just edit that assignment and add that person into that permission set group, and that gives them that full access. So again, you're not clicking into the permission set assignments and clicking through 30 or 50 of those permission sets and trying to slide them over. That's just a high risk way of trying to add those permissions, and having these permission set groups set up ahead of time and architected really well will just really allow, from a scalability standpoint, to continue to grow and adjust roles as you continue to develop them over time. From a restriction rules standpoint, this is something that also lives within the object manager on the back end, and it's just a general restriction rule. So this is kind of a manifestation of the example that I provided. So in this particular example, if we have Eastern and Western divisions within our organization, right now what I am trying to do is basically go through and refine that access at the task level, where the person that is being defined in this is going to be somebody that is in or that has their division labeled as Eastern. And they are only going to then have visibility into other tasks that have owners that are in the same division. So again, this is something that really just helps to refine that final access and kind of reduce the clutter so that the people are really only seeing the data that applies to them. Jason, I'm going to pass that back to you.
Fantastic. So, Patrick, when I hear about the different security setups, I mean, some of that reminds me of admin work, right? Where that's making the admin's life easier. But then I also think about times where I was the person being onboarded. And I remember times where I'd go through and I'd have to I would just hit the wall, right? Where you're trying to do something, whether it's a mundane task of adding a new contact or lead inside of Salesforce, and you'd hit the wall. So you're saying with these new tools, I'm going to get people on board faster. They're going to be able to do their job that I've assigned to them quicker and faster. So it's making the admin's life easier, but it's also making the end user's life easier. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. I think you're kind of supporting on both ends from a business perspective. One, you don't need as many internal staff to help maintain that overall, the permissions maintenance. And then two, on the sales side or service side, you're getting to value much faster. So people are able to get in, start doing jobs, and start really providing value to the organization as a whole.
Wow. I could see how that could impact all parts of the business, right? Because when you get into other areas, other clouds, it could stretch across the whole organization very quickly.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. All right. So, Stephen, can you go ahead and launch that next poll question, please? We are going to switch gears here. And when you think about maintenance, we know that that's not very glamorous, but just like our equipment in the warehouse and on the shop floor, maintenance is required to make sure we have optimal performance. Let's take this survey because I'm really curious about where everybody sits. And please be honest, we're all friends here. And by the way, the results are anonymous on even on our side, so we just see the summary data.
Jason, we're getting a countdown again.
Okay. In Spanish, maybe. Tres, dos, uno.
Oh, I like it.
Close. Or Sierra, is that how you say it in Spanish? Sorry, that was terrible. I massacred the language. Okay. Well, this is an interesting result. I see not really as the most popular answer. And then also the second popular answer is that we monitor Salesforce, but there really isn't a formal program. The next two areas that we're going to show is, I have to admit, it's not very glamorous, but neither is buying a water heater for the house, right? We all want the bigger TV or the pool table or even the swimming pool out back, but not having hot water can make a day extremely tough. And that's also true if Salesforce breaks. My understanding is that Salesforce has a couple of maintenance tools that certainly reduces the risk of these headaches, if not eliminates them, if done properly. So, Patrick, will you take a few minutes and talk about that for us?
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing that we have to remember is that Salesforce has three releases every year. This requires a maintenance plan to really ensure that your org is healthy and that you're staying up to pace with those releases and minimizing that technical debt as Salesforce continues to evolve. Owners have to be aware of the new features to optimize their technology investment, and they have to be aware of the greater impact those updates may have on their organization as a whole. We'll talk first about Apex Guru Insights, which is really focused more on the proactive code review and prioritization of code fixes. And then we'll jump into a couple automation maintenance tools that are generally available. Jason, if you want to jump to the next slide. So Apex Guru Insights is similar to how the newer cars will text you when they need service. Apex Guru empowers developers to proactively monitor custom code, providing actionable insights and even recommendations to ensure that code is optimized. I know it sounds like it's an IT concern for the back end of the system, but it does have a direct impact on your end user's productivity. Poorly written code will slow down the entire system. This means a customization for one department can slow down how fast sales can process quotes and orders. This has a direct impact on the bottom line because now you have to hire more folks to process that throughput. This doesn't even account for how training the new folks will slow things down as well. For example, a customer number field may be added and not restricted to numbers, so free-form text is entered or vice versa. This will impact the subsequent processes and could confuse Einstein AI as it's farming data, to provide insights. Another example is when fields are repurposed and access is granted without considering how other departments use that particular field. This exposes data that certain groups don't necessarily need to see. Inefficient and outdated code slows down growth and takes away the ability to scale, all while creating technical debt. Leadership in your organization has to build strategies to meet and exceed the effectiveness of the competition. The last thing they want to hear is that technology is holding them back while other companies are leveraging it as a competitive advantage. Salesforce will continue to evolve, and if you aren't investing in the required maintenance, you are limiting the use of what you are already paying for. It won't take long for effective leadership to grow the business to the point where any shortcuts will be exposed. At the end of the day, poor maintenance will equal poor performance, and that means real money will be left on the table. So on this screen, you're going to be able to see a few different things, the top being a report creation date. So this Apex Guru tool will run a report on a weekly basis. So every week that you will see a report be generated within your system. So the nice part about that is you can also see historical reports, and you'll kind of be able to monitor your progress as you move forward within the year. This first tab that we're on that you're seeing is just their general code recommendations. And I think this is such a great highlight for just your scalability long term. This isn't necessarily identifying things that are wrong, that your code doesn't necessarily work. It's just saying that this may not be the best practice. How do we get it from how it's currently written into something that might be a little bit more scalable? So that you do have that recommended code to the right, which is really, again, a great way for your developers to proactively review this. One, they'll also be able to use this from an educational standpoint to help grow them so they're more consistently doing the recommended style of code in the future versus their current style. And two, it allows them to make adjustments to the current code that's already exists. The two at the end are another two that are really critical from our perspective, the expensive methods tab and the unused classes and methods tab. Basically, the expensive methods tab is going to display Apex that is consuming a lot of CPU time. So it's another area that's probably going to be more directly affecting your team's performance overall. And it's a great area for your developers or your admin team to focus on because of the cost that it'll have for your organization as a whole. The unused classes and methods is going to be another great area because that's basically highlighting your technical debt. It's showing methods and classes that are just really aren't being utilized anymore. So it's a great area to then kind of clean up and help keep the system as clean as possible to, again, help drive the efficiency of your system and improve the overall performance. Perfect. Now let's jump into the declarative automation side. So obviously it's critical to manage both around the code, but it's also very critical to manage the declarative automations as well. Automations based on triggers and prescribed processes that have to be efficient. Not enough maintenance puts these flows at risk from a technical debt perspective. There's potential that they just won't run slowly, but they'll actually break altogether, slowing down your team and hitting your revenue. After investing all that time and money in training the sales team to use Salesforce, you don't want them to have to use a workaround while something is in the queue to be fixed. The automation home is one of the tools that's provided by Salesforce to help monitor your current usage. So the automation home gives Salesforce admins the insight into what flow types are being used and run regularly. So this will provide insight into where the value is being driven from and can help provide guidance for future design to get more value from your roadmap. So if you think about what Chris had shown earlier in terms of those types of flows that are available when you're creating those flows, those are all the types of flows that you could see within that measure graph at the lower part of this screenshot here. In the top portion, you're seeing basically just the usage of those flows and automation over the last 30 days. So in this particular case, you're seeing a large 14.6 million in the middle for without or just auto launch flows, which is without the UI, and then the about 1,500 runs for ones that happen to live within the UI within Salesforce. Another great value to this location within Salesforce is that if people are just learning the tool, this is a great way to directly connect into the community for automation trailblazers, which is to the right in that get started section. And then also learning automation on Trailhead, which is just to the left of that one. Perfect. So that's really a great way to get pushed into it so that your team doesn't have to necessarily go hunting as to where they need to start when they're trying to learn flow. All right, next slide, Jason. So the next tool is the automation app. So this is a very brand new release that's came out in the summer release. We're excited to add this in here. One of the benefits of this is, again, being able to proactively manage the automation and keep your team selling. Rather than waiting for someone to report functionality issues, this tool will show the recent automation errors in one spot, so your team can help to resolve any issues before those requests even come in. Another benefit is that it helps to identify automation that has been modified recently so you can keep tabs on your organizational changes. Salesforce ultimately drives efficiencies that are enhanced with more information and insights from Einstein AI. Think of your upsell engine or picking the right warehouse to minimize freight costs. Take away Salesforce, even for a short time, and you'll miss sales opportunities will increase. Taking the steps to proactively manage automation helps to ensure the data integrity in the system, and it lays the groundwork to provide better insight and value from Einstein AI. Jason, I'll pass it back to you.
All right, let's see here. Well, that was a lot of information. I think that was the fastest, so what, 45 minutes that I can remember. And let's take a quick look at what kind of questions came in. Because it looks like we do have a few minutes for Q&A here, and we may not be able to get to them all, like I said, but we could certainly reach out to you. But one of the questions that came in was how long does all this take? I mean, we caught a lot of different tools here. We looked at a lot of different things, but I mean, is every one of these things a 6-month project? I mean, what are we looking at here? Can you give some perspective on that?
Yeah, I'm happy to take that one. I think it all varies on many factors, right? As business requirements increase, so does the time that something takes to stand up. We've seen projects go as fast as 4 weeks, But the average is typically around 24 weeks. And again, depending on how much of your business requirements you have laid out, how much of that process is defined, and what that project looks like, that 4 to 24 weeks is really going to vary, but that average is definitely closer to that 24-week mark.
Okay. It looks like the next question is it seems like there's a lot to tackle. How do we get started? And that's a pretty tough question. I mean, can you talk about that?
Yeah.
Or one of you, or maybe even both of you, can you talk about what it takes to really just get started? I mean, where do we begin with all this stuff?
Yeah, I can take this one, Jason. So the first step, as with anything, is we need to learn about your business and understand the needs. That's really kind of the foundation for us to continue to move forward and be able to ensure success. The next step after we understand the business and understand the needs is that we prioritize those requirements, and we like to build out that roadmap that allows us to get you where you need to go. So definitely reach out if you'd like to get something on the calendar and discuss those next steps.
Okay, good stuff. All right, a few more here as I'm reading. Oh, here's a good one. Is Einstein ready for prime time? And that's for those of you on the call, Einstein AI is the engine in the background. So which one of you want to tackle that question? I know that could take hours to answer, but
I'm happy to start, and then we can definitely add some more. I mean, realistically, right, there's two types of AI that are offered. It's the generative AI and it's the predictive AI. Einstein AI is ready to go. It's in your systems out of the box, whether that be search, whether that be the generative AI side and flow that we saw, right? The challenge we see is that companies don't have clean enough data to rely on AI today. The foundation of it has to be built with good connected data to avoid inaccurate answers and hallucination. So just like we went through with the data boom in BI, it's garbage in, garbage out, right? So we have to make sure, as Pat had mentioned previously, that the data types are correct, that the metadata is accurate, how it's being entered is consistently the same. So that data has to be good for the AI to provide good answers, just similar to a house. If you take that, for example, right? If a house's foundation isn't strong, the second story bathroom really doesn't matter. So it's really building from the bottom up. We need to ensure the foundation is there, it is capable, so the AI can actually produce good data and good answers for you, whether that's generative or predictive, right? They both rely on that foundation, they both rely on the data that's being entered into your system. So that is the most crucial part, to focus on that first before diving into all of the AI that is there. But Einstein is very much ready to go and is very much a real thing.
Wow, good stuff. Well, that's definitely exciting. Patrick, anything on that topic?
I think Chris walked through that great.
Excellent. Okay. So everybody's excited for the summer releases and all of that. Do you all want to take just a few minutes and talk about some of the new stuff coming out?
Yeah, we definitely can. I think we had one release the past weekend. We have one release coming up next weekend. Pat, you want to start with that?
Yeah, and we actually touched on a couple of them today. So one being that Einstein for Flow, that's in the new release, and the next one is that automation app that is going to be generally available. So those are two of those newer tools that that should be added into your arsenal, and your team should be using on a regular basis to help kind of progress your Salesforce forward. Another one I think I'm very excited about, and I know some of the team in the midst of projects are very excited about, is the tab dynamic visibility on Lightning pages. That's been a big request for a long time, and that's finally being released in this summer release. So that's really going to allow some additional flexibility. So instead of having multiple tab components on your Lightning page to control which tabs people see, now you can just have that one tabs component and just make the tabs visible. So that's super exciting from my perspective.
Yeah, I think two things from mine, I'd say, and I'm going to stick on one of them is going to be the flow topic because I love flow. You can now add action buttons within flow, right? So some of those action buttons that you typically saw on your Lightning page or Lightning record pages, your layouts, things like that, you can now start to add those into your flow. And then one thing I think that everyone is going to love, because that activity feed can really bog people down sometimes, is now we have a threading token in email action. So at least it includes all those emails in one thread, instead of having several different emails that are being sent off in that activity feed that we see.
Excellent.
And there's another one with the dynamic forms piece that was released as well. And I know dynamic forms have been around for a couple of years now, but the new addition to that enhancement is that when you're creating those fields, you can actually add them to those dynamic forms on the Lightning page directly from the creation screen versus creating that field and then having to go and find it and replace it onto the screen. So that's another great enhancement. I think it's going to help on the admin side, make them a little bit faster and more efficient in terms of the creation of those fields.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So, oh, here's one that's a little more detailed. One of the questions is, will my current flows still work at all after they're deprecated in 2025?
Yes, I can definitely take that one. So what's really being deprecated in December 2025 is the support for Flow, right? So if you had to open a case with Salesforce or workflows and process builders, if you had to open a case with Salesforce because a current workflow that you had is no longer working, Salesforce support will not support you until you move that over to Flow. And it's the same thing with process builders. So it's not that your workflows and process builders will stop working, but they will no longer be supported from a support perspective. So there's a lot that you can do now in getting that ready to move over to Flow. So that's something that we can definitely help with. If you have a lot of workflows, if you have a lot of process builders, definitely reach out, and we can kind of help analyze that and get you ready to move those all over to Flow.
Very good. Very good. Yeah, so it sounds like there's a little bit of urgency because 2025 is coming on quick, and you certainly don't want that to break and then have to convert and just to get any support out of it, right?
I agree. And I think the more workflows and more process builders you have, the more complex that they are. We've seen process builders with 40, 50 nodes, right, that have different actions that go off of them. And that's just one process builder. So if you have a lot of those active, if you have a lot of workflows active, we typically see that in customers who've been around for, 10 plus years that are using those workflows, those process builders. There's definitely some impact to the business there and some risk there from a business perspective, that is worth addressing sooner than later.
Very good. Very
And
good.
Chris, Jason, just to add on to that, it's also a great opportunity to really review from a technical debt perspective to see if you have any automation that's duplicated, or maybe there's automation that is no longer needed anymore as a business. So it's really a great time to review that whole piece, really design the architecture of it as you migrate over to flows so that you can then continue to enhance later on and continue to build and scale. So definitely kind of consider that as you're looking at these automation migrations.
Interesting stuff. Oh, I guess I did open it up to off-topic questions as well. So we have one more, and I think we're going to cut it off from there. I need help with integrations with Salesforce. Can you help me? Well, that's pretty open, pretty broad question. So try to limit to just a minute or two because I still have one more poll question that I'm going to launch before we leave.
Yeah, definitely. I think I can start, and then Pat, please feel free to add more here. We have a dedicated team that handles integrations, right? That works with Salesforce and a lot of other platforms that are out there, whether that be your ERP, if that's NetSuite, if you have the Microsoft platform as well. So we have a team that's really just dedicated to integrations. We've built custom APIs, and we've used several different middleware such as MuleSoft, Boomi, Celigo to kind of really bring it all together from a data perspective and an integration perspective, so your systems are talking seamlessly to one another as well.
Good stuff. All right, well, I'm stopping the Q&A right here. If you have more, please feel free to send them out. The information is on the screen for you to send those directly to Chris and Pat. I do want to close with a poll question first. So if we could launch that last poll question, that would be excellent. So hopefully you saw some good stuff today that you'd like to learn more about. I'm just curious which one piqued your interest the most. Spanish is my only other language, so I can't do a countdown and anything else. I did see Cool Runnings though. Didn't they count in German or something?
They could have.
Ein, drein, I don't remember. Sorry.
It's all right.
Automation with the new Flow tool. So Chris, you're going to get very, very busy.
I like that.
Yeah, that
Feel free.
dominates the answers. So
yeah,
excellent.
the contact info is down there, so definitely feel free to reach out to myself, to Pat. I'm happy to answer questions. Get started working with you guys on how we can use Flow, and definitely in the deprecation of workflows and process builders, how we can help there.
So thank you both. Appreciate your time today. That was great to hear all about hear about these features, and definitely the way that AI impacts those. It's certainly fair to say that the Salesforce landscape's changing very, very quickly. And for all of you on the call, you need to have regular conversations with your partner. Hopefully it's us, but if it's not, that's okay. You still want to optimize your investment in Salesforce. You need to have these regular conversations because it's changing quickly, and there's just a lot out there. If you wanted to continue this conversation with Chris or Pat, you saw their contact information that was on the previous screen, or you can visit citrincooperman.com and learn more about us in general. And finally, if you are going to Dreamforce, then you could stop by and have a cup of coffee with us. So we are going to have I think this is this is the first day of the show, right, Chris? This will be before the first day?
If it's the 18th, I believe it's the second day.
Okay, before the second day, excuse
Yeah.
me. But either way, you could stop by, have a cup of coffee with us and learn more. Just have a chat about, your environment, and obviously based on the topics we covered today, there's a pretty broad range of topics that we're qualified to discuss. So feel free to stop by. We'd love to have you. And of course, it was wonderful to have you on the webinar today. Since I don't have any other questions out there, I'm going to go ahead and conclude the session. And thank you very much. Thank you, Chris and Pat, once again. And Stephen, thank you as well for being our moderator.
Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Yep. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.